theatrical representation of these things that, that it's inspired by the supernatural, the paranormal, the occult, but is not, I'm not purporting to actually be doing anything of that nature, live on stage like that. So I'm glad that is a distinction that you got out of that too. So that's cool. Thank you.
And on top of it, Ryan, have you seen the girls he uses on stage? I mean, if put it this way, if the coffin isn't on fire in a cremation, right, you're looking at the hot babes too. I mean, at the same time, do I look at the illusion or do I look at the babe? No offense. I mean, you marketed it perfect.
I'd be lying if I said I didn't notice that.
Well, I'm with you guys. I mean, I think that's why young guys start illusion shows. It's like when when young dudes start bands. It's about getting the attention and maybe being, in my case, getting to work with gorgeous young women. If you're going to do that. I'm a man who very much appreciates women, and I'm like, well, let's sex this thing up. Let's make this interesting and fun to watch. It's kind of like what we were talking about in terms of weeds earlier.
Yeah.
It's like with Mary Louise Parker and everything. We love to watch that so much because she was, very, 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 very pleasant to watch work and, easy on the eyes. So. That's my philosophy with this as well, which also, by the way, gets back into indie horror and everything. Kind of staples of indie horror are, boobs and blood, and certainly that's in Dark Realm and to another degree in the live show, and I've hosted burlesque and performed in burlesque shows and things too. So there is a big, I like that kind of sensual aspect to.
Well,
all of that as well.
Let's face it. I mean, one of the very first talk shows I did commercially was in the late 70s. And it was, back then it was a paranormal show. But back then, the things we talked about, we weren't talking about UFOs. We were talking about, occults and, vampires and things like that, which Hammer was cranking out of his studios. And that was a very, popular subject. And let's face it, I mean, when you start thinking about, some of the tricks you do, you start thinking of the occult, you think of vampires, you think about, all this stuff, it comes when, like the way you dress and all that stuff, it kind of gives you that illusion, that's what it is.
Exactly, and that's very much the inspiration for that. I wanted it to have that look because I always thought. I mean, even the classic magician, if you take a look at that the black tux and then the cape with the crimson lining in it and everything. Even that to me, I took one look at that kind of archetype of the magician and said, well, that dude looks like Dracula to me. I'm like, right. So even when I was starting, when I was young, even in that, it was already, because I had an interest in that, it was already looking to me like, well, this could easily go into, dark fantasy, into the dark realm of performance, and going into a darker shade, and still keeping it very fun. I've got a wicked sense of humor on stage. It's not all super dark and everything, but keeping, I thought, well, what better way? I mean, magic is supposed to be, really being able to control or supersede, nature and everything. And that's what you're doing, what you're showing, in a theatrical representation of that in stage magic and illusion. And, and that's what all of this, so much of the supernatural, the paranormal, the occult, and so many horror movies that deal with that are all steeped in that as well. Plus the aesthetic of it, which really, for me, so much of it comes from the Gothic industrial underground and everything, and even the fetish world and all of that. And that's all very much in part of dark culture. So I thought, well, since it already looks like that, and it just seemed to me to be a very natural coupling of those styles and those things that it's almost like a horror film. It's like, sometimes, I like to describe it sometimes as, you see special effects and you see that on a screen in a horror film, a representation of all these paranormal, supernatural things. Well, what I'm doing is it's kind of like those special effects, but live.
Yeah.
And
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
You need to get up in the Seattle area with your show.
Absolutely.
I'd love to. I'm trying to right now. I'm looking as I work on a larger distribution and as more and more people. It's been a very slow kind of cult film burn on Dark Realm. It's getting really very positive, great reviews. Everybody that watches it, loves it and comes away. They've had fun with it, which is great. It's a great compliment to know that I made something that people are enjoying. But because I didn't have it's an indie horror film, and we raised money and we made it ourselves, and that's the great thing of having the internet, to be able to put it out there. But still, you've got to have enough time and money to promote it then, which is, part of why I'm here with you, because I want to talk about that so much. But because I don't have a big studio budget, there's not a huge budget to just, splatter it out on billboards and print and everywhere else, across the globe all at once, like a new Avengers movie. It's a long, slow burn to get people to the movie, and I'm working on that, and then, like I say, putting it out on other platforms coming up soon. And that way, it's can easily be found by more people in more places. So as it gets out there, I'm hoping to couple that with an actual live tour where I could go out on the road where, once people have seen that, because the whole idea, always has been so many magicians, they go out and they do a television special or something like that. And then they turn around and go out on tour or something like that, because now people know who they are and they can sell some tickets, on the road. So that's part of my hopes of Dark Realm, that as I get more people to go take a look at that, instead of a television special, it's a film. But as people see that, they see me and what I'm doing, and I'm like, oh, good, we could go on the road now, and people would realize who I am and what I do and want to come out and see it live. Because, you can see it on television, you can see it in a film, but the greatest way to see any sort of, magic and illusion show is to go out and see that thing live. The energy is great. It's so much more fun. It's that shared experience that you're not always getting when you're watching a movie at home or streaming it, because everybody's doing that as much or more than they are in a big theater, and since it's not a huge theatrical release, to get that kind of communal feeling and watch it live, you want to go out to a theater, or a venue and see the show live. So I'm hoping exactly, to do that and bring it out to you and a lot of other people, because I hear that a lot now. Everyone's like, when are you going to bring the show out to where I'm at? So I'm actively working on that right now. So if you're a promoter anywhere in Seattle, you should get a hold of me.
Yeah, get a hold of me, and I'll get you a hold of Ron. I've had so many people this past week when I told people, a week ago you're going to be on the show. I had so many emails saying, ooh, I seen that movie he made. Or a couple people said they even seen you perform. They talked about that cremation things, and, to the point where, I hate to say it, I think some people got off on it to the point where, because it's so realistic. But why don't you tell everybody about some of the other movies you've been in? Because, you starred in some other movies.
I have. Another one they can find out there that I really love. It's by writer-director John Lachago, and it's called Magus, and I star in that one. And it is really about, this kind of subculture, a hidden world of magic users, or, they almost term them as wizards in the film. But these are people that really are, have an innate ability to manipulate energy that is around them and in their bodies and stuff, and to be able to store it and discharge it. So, they can shoot it out, as kind of an energy, like lightning or something like that, or use it for healing and things. But Magus tells this great story about, the Magus Furnos, which is who I play in the film, and they have had him sedated and drugged and kept away in an asylum, and he breaks out of this asylum and goes off on a tirade to kind of kill all the other magic users and expose their entire world, because he's tired of hiding his abilities and his gifts and everything. So, and it's a really fun, very cool movie. And it was one of my favorite things to make, and it's won awards as well, and it's got over 300 visual effects in the film. It's a great, kind of sci-fi horror looking movie, and it's actually when they put it out, John Lechago called it a horror fantasy because it kind of deals with that fantasy world of these magic users, these people that can manipulate things around them and the energy in the field, and then cause things to happen with that. So it's very cool, but it's called Magus, and that's out there as well. I know you can find it streaming in a few places, and you can get the DVD on Amazon. I know, and I'm sure you can find it used even on eBay, things like that, because that came out about 10 years ago now.
Yeah, but
that's one of my favorites.
That would be a good, between Dark Realm and this movie you're talking about, that would be a good movie for a Friday and a Saturday night. I'm at the age, I have the choice of listening to my wife snore in bed, or watch a good horror movie. And you know what I pick every time? The horror movie.
The horror movie. We see the thing is, then can't you get her to stay up and watch the horror movie with you?
No, the problem is she works really long hours and has a long commute. Plus, she does the booking on my show, so she puts a lot of energy into things. So when she hits the bed at 8 o'clock at night, I swear to God, by 8:03, she is snoring so loud the neighbors are probably thinking something is going on at my house. But I swear to God, it's that bad. So, I kind of watch a cable channel. It's called Comet, and they show the old B horror movies, the ones that are so bad you have to watch them, because they're so bad. Mm-hmm. I like, the monster with the zipper on the back, of his monster suit.
Well, that is the fun of some of that cheesy B and C grade horror, isn't it? Yeah, is to watch that and just kind of enjoy it for its kind of hinky production value.
You mean their budget of probably $1,500 to make the movie, like the alien eyes, right? That are plastic and they're really big, and they got little springs and they pop and hang down from their, yeah. I mean, those are the type of movies I really watch because they're really bad. But then, honestly, then I kind of like the sci-fi has been really good lately at showing, the dark side of horror type movies. And honestly, yes. I kind of like those. I mean, I'm burned out on Aliens, and I'm burned out, on space, Odyssey type movies. I kind of like the ones, where, that have a little bit of demon in them and a little bit of strangeness to them, and, the dark side of it. And I feel part of it.
You like the new one I'm making. I just wrapped filming on a movie called The Devil Frame by writer-director Rob Sepulveda. I had made a short film with him a few years ago called Year of the Ox. You can actually watch Year of the Ox. It's actually on YouTube. You can watch. It's only 10 minutes long, so if you want to see me in a short film, you can go to YouTube and look up Year of the Ox, Rob Sepulveda, or with my name, and you'll find it. It'll come up. And it's a really cool, highly stylized short, kind of sci-fi horror-ish looking film. It's very cool. It's very stylized. And he's making this movie called The Devil Frame now, which I just wrapped, and it's heavy into post. They're editing the film right now. Hopefully it will be out later in the year. But that sounds like something that's right up your alley. It is a movie that's about ritual voodoo magic set in the high-end art world.
Oh, wow. And
it's really cool. It's really different, but it's very much, takes its cue from those films that you like, in those old 70s and 80s kind of occult horror films that you don't see them making much anymore. So Rob wanted to make something that was very different, but very much inspired by those films, and we've got a really cool modern version of that. and I play, the guy in the film. He's the one that this young artist comes to learn some of these things, and I play the guy that owns this magic store, magic with a K, and it's this kind of this character Ramon that answers